Hello once again, NASCAR fans. You're listening to The Grueling Truth, where legends speak. You're listening to the NASCAR Show. I'm your host, Alex Gray, along here with Steve Risley, and we also have a special guest in here with us today. We have an up-and-coming racer in the Power Eye Midgets, Michael Klein. Michael, thanks for coming and joining us.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me, guys.
Hey, Michael, one of the things you'll learn on here, you got to train your hosts. Alex, you're a co-host.
All right.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had to train Mike Goodpaster on that too. Don't damage my ego. I'm 60 years old. It's frail.
Gotcha.
Sure thing.
These young graduates, they graduate from college and they think they know everything. You see what happens? They get their degree. They go off into the world. They're going to solve all the problems, get rid of world hunger, fix the global warming, and, they come right out of college and they're going to do it all in one fell swoop. By the way,
I just graduated, so.
Yeah, congratulations on getting your college degree.
Thank you.
You're off into the working world now. That's a major accomplishment. You should be very proud of it. I'm proud for you doing that, and good luck in the job market. It's a fruitful job market. You should have no problem with your talents landing where you want to do and starting the career you want to do. Whatever you do, find something you're going to love doing that you want to get up every morning and go to work for. Don't just do it for the money. Do it because you love to do it.
Exactly.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's actually I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's actually something they discussed in my school, just because I went to UNOH for a marketing degree, and John Force, has a relationship with them, so he actually came to the event center, and that's exactly what he told everyone there, is don't follow a job for the money or because it's necessarily what you're good at. Follow it because it's what you love to do.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I've been trying to do.
Well, my dad always... What's that?
Yeah, I said I'm 60. I played college basketball in Indiana. We won a national championship in 1981. Some of your parents probably weren't even born in 1981, but that's okay. But I was big and strong, 6'8". In this day and age, I turn around and look at it and go, you know what? I'm moving to Charlotte or Concord, and I want to be a right rear tire changer for some team. And
really?
I can live in a small apartment, and I want to get into NASCAR. I want to be a pit crew guy. I'm an athlete. I can do it. And now those pit crews are pretty much all football players or basketball players from college, or athletes. A lot of college athletes now, and that's what. they do.
I've actually worked as an over-the-wall crewman in ARCA. That's actually what I was doing a couple weekends ago down in Nashville. I've usually been right rear tire carrier, even though lately they've kind of been moving me to other things. Like this past weekend, I was the front tire changer for Eric Cadell. Yeah. And I definitely had a blast doing that.
That's got to be pressure, though. I mean, to talk about that since you've done it, how much pressure is on you to hit those lug nuts off and on? I mean, and how in the heck do you do it so quickly?
Well, to be honest, with the team I'm with now, there isn't a whole lot of pressure just because we understand we're at a disadvantage when it comes to these other teams. Like right now, we run one of two Dodges that's still in the ARCA Racing Series along with Tim Richmond. So, really, he's just trying to help us learn because he's trying to get this team to the point where we can contend. So, they didn't put too much pressure on me to necessarily do it fast, but just to kind of learn, which is something I definitely did. And what really makes it go so fast is that once your finger is on the trigger, you never let go of it. You just move it on to the next lug nut, pull it off, and then as soon as your tire changer puts it back on, you flip the switch on it, just put them all on the same way.
Yeah.
Now, okay, so before we get one last question, and let's get into Kansas. But I got to ask this: an average pit stop in Cup is about 12 and a half, 13 seconds. 13 seconds is slow. What's an average pit stop in ARCA?
With ARCA, it just kind of depends on which team you're with. It's probably around 14 seconds for some of the bigger teams. If you get to some of these smaller teams that are sort of just there to train other crewmen, you're probably looking at more like 20-something seconds for a 4-tire stop in fuel.
But then that's probably consistent among all the teams running in ARCA. So it's not like four-fifths of the car running in 14 seconds and 2 of you are running in 20 seconds. It's pretty well standard for everybody in ARCA, I would guess.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll get back to all that at the end because we're going to give you the full second half of the show here to talk about your career and how a driver comes up through it. But let's get into Kansas. Alex, what'd you think?
This was probably the best mile-and-a-half race all season long. There was just, I forgot who posted it, but this was, since like 2014, this the most quality and green flag passes a Kansas race has had in quite a long time. I was really impressed by everything, especially that I want to talk about here in a little bit Chevy and how they're looking good. Roush, seeing Stenhouse and even Chris Buescher up there and running. Overall, I wasn't really sure who was going to win the race until the very end when Keselowski popped up and continuing that Penske dominance, because so far this season we've had 3 teams only get wins, Gibbs, Penske, and, of course, the one Hendrick win. And then you got Alex Bowman, once again a second-place finish for the 3rd straight race. I think at this point Bowman's clicking. He's clicking. I think he's figured it out, and I think he's going to get a win here very soon. But overall, this package worked at Kansas. It really did.
I would go so far to say that this is probably one of the best Kansas races I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. And it's probably one of the best mile-and-a-half flat track races I've ever seen. There was nobody pulling away 13, 14 seconds ahead. Even, and I follow Elliott, and, he was running everywhere, but he was generally never more than 10 seconds off the lead, and that's when he was, in a pit stop. He can come back out 18th or 19th, but usually 18th or 19th is about ready to get lapped. But the top 5 or 6 or 7 cars were all within 4 or 5 seconds of each other, and there was just no pull away from anybody. Bowman ran up front all day. Elliott ran up front all day. Harvick was strong in the beginning until he got himself into trouble. Keselowski really comes out of nowhere. But what the things that I took from it are the competitiveness in the racing, but these young guys now are starting to make a move. I mean, Bowman, 3 consecutive second-place finishes. Eric Jones running strong. He was contending. Elliott contended again, led a bunch of laps. Then you got guys like Tyler Reddick and Chris Buescher. I mean, look at this, 9th and 10th for those guys.
Yeah.
I mean, and they're running small teams, too. They're not running the powerhouse teams. But that's what this aero package does now. It seems to me that it takes talent and bravado and puts it back into the mix as opposed to just equipment. Because before on these mile-and-a-halves, in my opinion, the big guys were Stewart-Haas, JGR, Hendrick, Penske. Those guys were winning just because they had better equipment on these mile-and-a-half flat tracks. But now all of a sudden, the way this aero package is working in this, and maybe all along this is what this aero package was dialed in to do, it did its job. But I'm loving Alex Bowman. The guy's going to win in the next 2 or 3 races. I mean, he can't not win. Eric Jones is a guy who, and I like Eric Jones. He's kind of becoming like the new Tony Stewart, in my opinion. He's got a little bit of an attitude. He doesn't take much crap from anybody. He's a guy. I think he looks just like you. I think if you put his picture and your picture side by side, I think you guys are separated twins at birth. Is what I think.
You might relate it to Eric Jones.
Yeah, I mean, Chase is still only 23. He's running for the championship. I mean, he's a bona fide championship contender. He's in the top 5 now routinely, and he's leading. I think I saw a stat where last year he led like maybe 30 or 40 laps all season long or something like that. Some low number. And this year he's already led like 300 or 400 laps. I mean, he's a guy now, Elliott, who's probably been the leader in the resurgence of Hendrick. But I tell you what, he's not the only star on that team. Bowman is making a name for himself big, and I'm loving Reddick and Buescher because they're consistently up there.
Yeah, Buescher was really impressive, and Tyler Reddick, he's driving a few Cup races. I'm pretty sure he's going to be driving full-time in Cup next season.
Yeah, Michael, what do you think about it? What do you think about Kansas City? You're a racer.
Well, like I said, I was only able to watch like the last half of it just because, like I said, I was in Indianapolis for the Grand Prix. But when I got back, it was really like a whole race worth of action packed into that last half. And that's something I think we've been seeing a lot more this year. The action on the mile-and-a-half track has really been picking up. And with this aero package on the shorter track, you're typically seeing your longer green flag runs, your drivers pulling away. But this package is dialed in for the mile-and-a-half tracks. And I think Kansas just showed that. Because you had nobody pulling away. The whole field looked like they were running Talladega going into the turn. And really, I don't know what more a NASCAR fan could ask for out of that? That's exactly what they've been pushing NASCAR to do, and they finally got the package right to make that happen. So hopefully it's sort of signals sort of a resurgence for NASCAR's popularity in the years to come.
Yeah, there was no complaining or bitching on Twitter or Facebook or anything about this race.
And how often
everybody
does that happen?
Yeah. How often does that happen? Everybody's like, same teams win all the time, boring. But that didn't happen here. I mean, everybody was positive. Hey, by the way, Alex, I've got Adam Alexander following me now.
What?
Adam Alexander.
I didn't see a notification about that, but
he's following me. He's following me personally. I followed him, and he came back and followed me. So he's the guy that runs that NASCAR show on Fox every day. Yeah.
Yeah, and he does play-by-play for Xfinity races.
I'm gonna put a feeler out to him, see if we can get him on the show. We get guests like Michael. We tell him we got Michael Klein. We should be able to get Adam Alexander. That's how I feel about it.
Certainly.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
There you go. Yeah, I agree. But so this package, Alex or Michael, either one, are we in a situation now where we should probably be offering 3 aero packages to these cars? Because I don't know if the spacers have done their job on the super speedways. I don't know that I didn't like the restrictor plates better just because I think it makes for a more fun watch the race, although I think it was a great race for the spacers because you had a different style of super speedway. Where I'm not happy really right now, Alex, is the short tracks. I mean, they've gotten kind of boring in their own right. You're used to banging and bumping and cars spinning and tempers flaring, and all the short tracks we've had so far have been kind of real clean races. And kind of almost now that what we saw at Kansas City, I'm almost going to go back and say the most boring race right now under this aero package might be the short tracks.
Yeah, and I think the issue there is, and I think a couple drivers have even said it, that sometimes, especially when the horsepower gets dropped down to 550, the cars get more stable and there's fewer wrecks, which on the positive side, it's easier on teams. Yeah. But the issue I have is, on short. I think it does not work on short tracks. It seemed to work fine at Talladega. It's worked pretty good on instances at the mile and a half. But I think the one place that this package just doesn't work seems to be the short tracks. Martinsville was pretty much Brad Keselowski leading a parade. I won't lie.
Right.
Bristol
wasn't much different.
Yeah. So, maybe perhaps NASCAR can take a look and say, okay, what do we need to do different for short track races? Kansas worked.
What do they do?
And as for somebody who goes to the races at Kentucky, I'm feeling pretty excited about this race all of a sudden. I'm looking forward to seeing how the package goes. So,
so on the short track, should they just maybe kick the horsepower back up and let the guys, dirt track the cars around because you get the horsepower, you get slip, you get a little more sliding, a lot more power.
That's what I would say.
Like that.
I'd say try that. Just bump it up to 750 again on Bristol, Martinsville, Richmond, see what happens.
Yeah, Michael, you're a racer. What should happen on the short? Do you agree? First off, the short track's kind of like pretty mundane races for what I'm used to at Richmond, Bristol, and Martinsville. And then really I throw Dover in there too, because Dover's really a mile track. It's kind of a short track in its own right.
Yeah, and honestly, I think you'd also have to throw ISM in there, because I can remember that wasn't a super exciting race. That was mainly Kyle Busch pretty much leading the charge. Mm-hmm. I can't remember it very well, to be honest, but that's just from what I do remember. So I would say, we would probably need to kick the horsepower back up on the short tracks, especially with this new movement that NASCAR needs to have more short tracks, which I completely agree with. But if you're going to make it work, you also need to learn how to make the cars work with it. And, I mean, it's not like any other series. Like, you had IndyCar that had a different package for every single track they went to, and even NASCAR did that for a while. So I think we kind of need to go back to that and understand that not one package is going to work for every track. Like right now, the one we have now, it's working perfectly for the big ones, but the short track, it's kind of taking away that action and taking it more out of the driver's hands. So what they need to do for that is really kick the horsepower back up, and I think we'll see that great short track racing that we're so accustomed to.
Yeah, I put down in my notes. If we see more races like Kansas City, fans will come back to NASCAR on television and in stands.
Yeah,
So I think they need to. Like I'm hot and cold on the spacers. I don't know, and you guys talk about the spacers, but I personally like the way the restrictor plates were working better. But that's just from my perspective, not from the team owners, the drivers. They all hate the restrictor plates. I get that. I thought the spacers did their job. You had more bumping and two-car drafting and bumping off. You didn't end up with the tandems that they thought they were going to get out of it. The packs were still fairly well set up, but they weren't running like they run with the restrictor plates. And to me, 3 times a year, 4 times a year, twice at Talladega and twice at Daytona, those are my favorite races to watch. But they are kind of boring until the end. But the big one could happen any time. But what's your thoughts on the spacers, both of you? Are they good or bad?
This time around, when it came to Talladega, I did not want to look away from the television set. I thought Talladega was very well. I think the spacers worked really well there, and I think they will work fine at Daytona as well. I think for sure the spacers do work. There was a lot of quality passing, and that's what I want to see. It's just a lot of passing and jockeying for position.
Michael, what do you think?
Yeah, and I'd have to agree with that. I couldn't turn away from Talladega when I was watching it because the way the field was, you never knew what was going to happen next.
Right.
And that just created for an exciting race that everybody, I think, enjoyed. I really didn't see anybody talking any smack about it on Twitter. So I think the general consensus on that is it was a good race. So I think those spacers are going to work well for Daytona.
Yeah, I would agree. It was just a little bit, maybe for me, it was a little bit different kind of racing. Like I said, there were more 2-car hookups again, and the pack was still there. To me, it wasn't as tightly bunched as it was, but that may be a better, safer alternative anyway. You don't trash as many cars, you don't spend as much money, and you didn't do it. 'Cause there were a couple minor big wrecks, but the big one never really occurred at Talladega that we're used to seeing, where all of a sudden 25 cars are out or damaged and then running, without an aero package completely. But Alex, what do we need to do for the short tracks? You think just jacking the horsepower up does it?
I would say that's a start. I would say jack up the horsepower back up to 750. I just think the cars are too stable at 550. So I think if you move the HP back up to 750, I think perhaps you add in more speed, it'll create the more Rubbins racing kind of ordeal, because people want to see that on short tracks. I know a lot of fans want short tracks. Actually, here in a little bit, I'll talk about some ideas I got pitched today for National Fairgrounds. But anyhow, I would say as of right now, I would start by just moving the horsepower up to 750.
Okay.
Which, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with that, but you also need to look at the downforce aspect of it, because that also has a huge effect on handling. Something they did for this year was they raised the spoilers up on the cars. So maybe if they trim those down for the short tracks, that would also create a pretty racy car.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
So lowering the spoiler would free up the back end. You get a little more slide and slip, a little less downforce, a little less stick. So you'd be more driving by the seat of your pants, which is what they used to do, and not just throw the cars on like a slot car. It's on a slot and it's going to stick wherever you run it. Although the one thing about that, though, when you do put that downforce on it, doesn't that create the second lane, the second groove? Pretty much gives you 2 grooves, say at a Bristol, and everybody's not running single file in the low groove. I think I did see the outside grooves work better on the short tracks because of the big spoiler and the downforce. Is that a fair assessment, or am I talking about things I don't know about?
I would say that's probably a pretty fair assessment. Because, what this does create is, like I said, it does allow drivers more control of their cars, so they're able to take it wherever they want, use whatever lane they think is best. But, like you said, it sounded like the high lane was probably the one that was working the best. So the way I see it, if you can have a 2-lane track, but the other lane has an advantage over the other, it's not really racing.
Yeah.
I mean, how is that different than single file if you have 2 lanes, they're still not passing?
Yeah. What would happen if we just said, okay, we're going to leave the spoiler up there, but we're going to give you 750 horsepower. So you're going to get the grip, but you're going to have enough power it's going to break that back end loose, even with that kind of downforce. Does that add some excitement to the racing on the short tracks? Just kick the horsepower
absolutely
up.
It would.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely it would.
Oh, yeah. I don't mind seeing cars, beating and banging, touching one another, doing what, of course not absolutely wrecking each other, but, that's what Bristol and Martinsville, that's the kind of atmosphere you get, is that whole Rubbins is racing ordeal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've missed that because you're used to seeing Clint Boyer get out of the car and pissing and moaning about everybody. It's car it's not named 14.
Heck, I was at Bristol in 2005, and I remember seeing Dale Jarrett, a tempers flared between him and Newman. I remember Dale Jarrett took out Ryan Newman and causing himself and others to wreck. That's how Bristol is.
Yeah.
And
I think that's you haven't seen that yet. You didn't see that this year. Saw a really good, clean race, but that's not what I want to watch Bristol. I want to see cars mangle up and banging each other, and if I tap you once, I tap you twice, I wreck you the third time. Get out of my way. I'll tap you once, I'll tap you twice. Third time, you're going to go on the wall if you don't get out of my way.
Plus it shows, the more the character of the drivers, because I think a lot of people also talked about that with the younger drivers too. Is and I don't mind it. It's racing. You're going to get emotional. You're going to get mad. So the short track's kind of doing that. I think the 2002.
I'm texting Brian France right now with all the suggestions we have for changing up short tracks.
You mean Jim France?
No, Brian. Yeah, I'm texting Brian. We're drinking buddies. So.
Yeah, sure. You guys were back in August of last year.
Let's talk about the ups and downs right now. I think the first up is the young drivers.
Yeah.
They're getting racy. They're not taking crap from the older guys. They're taking some positions away from the older guys. You got Kyle Busch. I think he didn't finish in the top 10, did he? First time now?
Yeah, first time this season he doesn't finish in the top 10. So his record is tied.
He finished 30th.
I can't believe Morgan Shepherd holds that record. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ryan,
and that races.
You got Ryan Newman 23rd. You got some of the big name guys down low. Truex 19th. Harvick.
Well, in Newman's defense, he did have that penalty. He was running up front, and then he had that uncontrolled tire.
Yeah, he had the penalty.
You got some young drivers up there in the top 10. Stenhouse, still pretty young. Buscher, Reddick, Larson. You got Kurt Busch. Boyer, Elliott.
Stenhouse was really impressive.
Yeah, 3 of the top 4. You got Bowman, Jones, and Elliott. And then you got Keselowski, who's a veteran. But these young guys are coming up. Everybody agree that they're going to make more fun, and they're not. They're losing their fear, and they're just saying, hey, I want to put wins on the board like everybody else, and they're getting good equipment. I mean, the aero package is balancing out the dollar volume in the equipment, I think. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, we're such at an interesting time when, the veterans that we've known the past several years are now retired. Some of them are still there. And you're wondering, when are these younger drivers going to step up? Because you've seen a lot of wins from Hamlin, Busch, Keselowski. But now we're seeing a lot of competition. Bowman. Alex Bowman he suddenly looks like he could run for a championship the way, if he continues to run like this. 3 straight second-place finishes. Chase Elliott, Eric Jones, as you mentioned. Chris Buescher. Wow.
Yeah.
He ran in the top 10 most of the race. Very impressive for that JTG Daugherty team. And, of course, Stenhouse. And that's another team. We talk about how Chevrolet's back, I think, at this point. But I also want to point out that I think this package has really been benefiting some of these guys like Roush Fenway Racing. I know that they've been on the downside lately. Newman's had some good runs. Obviously, he's a seasoned veteran. Stenhouse, he's shown some promise too. He's ran pretty fast at times. Despite the 11th place finish, he showed a lot of speed. But, yeah, the biggest shock, as you mentioned before, Stewart Haas Racing, Amarola, Harvick, Suarez, 12th, 13th, 14th, Boyer 5th. You start to wonder, when are these guys going to get a win? Maybe perhaps Kevin Harvick. I don't know. By the way, speaking of Kevin Harvick, and I know I like to go off topic, you need to get on Twitter and see his stuff with his Busch Beer Millennial car, because it is gold material.
I know. I saw
man.
it,
Yeah.
He's got all the millennial sayings all plastered all over. I didn't know any of them. I started looking at it, what the hell is all this? But remember, I'm 60 years old. You know, I'm old school, you know.
I just want to see him win that, just to see what he'll do in victory lane with that car.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm just curious to see that.
I want him to win in that car. By the way.
So, go ahead.
I forgot to mention the truck race at Kansas. Hats off to Ross Chastain. He got his first career truck win, driving for a smaller team, Nice Motorsports. This is a guy who has ran in every Cup, Xfinity, and truck race this season. Of course, he got his big break with Ganassi late last season. He won in Las Vegas. He was going to drive for his team full-time with DC Solar. Obviously, DC Solar went bankrupt, got into a lot of trouble. So Chastain has been really pushing himself, and he was amazing at Kansas, and he got the win, well-deserved.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
And, you know, and you got to think of this, too. Kurt Busch only signed a 1-year deal with Ganassi. And so I've heard most likely this means he's retiring at the end of the year. But just think if Chastain were put in that car, just imagine what he could do in that equipment.
Yes. I think he'll do great things.
Well, I mean, do you do Chastain, or do you move Buescher into that car? Or even Reddick? I mean, you got guys that are do you take a Chastain or do you take a Reddick, you know, who's running part-time, finishing in the top 10 now with inferior equipment, basically. You take somebody like him and put him in the one car. I mean, Buescher and Reddick would both be great choices for the one car.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they would. But at the same time, you have to think of this. JTG Daugherty Racing looks like they're on the rise. Honestly, if you're Chris Buescher, I honestly don't know if you want to move from that team. Just because
he's going to leave.
If you have potential with the team you're with now, why would you really want to leave that?
Yeah, well, you're going to Ganassi. You're going to Ganassi. Who's, you know, you got what's his name is the partner. Who drives the 41? The other guy who drives for. I'm blank on his name.
I mean, Kyle Larson's in the 42, and Kurt Busch is in the 1 for Ganassi.
Who's in the 42?
Kyle Larson.
And
he's running better.
God, I couldn't think of his name. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's a little bit stronger team than JT Daugherty. But, you know, he's making his name there, and JT Daugherty is putting money. So you got to give Alec, who had the 47 car last year.
That was Allmendinger.
Allmendinger. He did a lot. He did a lot to raise that team up. You know, he was in contention a lot, and he had a win or two for them and put them on the map a little bit. So Allmendinger really, I know they jettisoned him, but he did a lot to help build that team up, and should get a little bit of credit for where that team is right now. But they're in contention,
especially with the backing they've had from Kroger has been incredible.
Yeah,
and
they stayed with JTG. Yeah,
I appreciate Kroger's support in NASCAR. By the way,
I agree entirely. Yeah, they're called Ralphs out here. We have Kroger in the West Coast is called Ralphs.
Yeah, okay.
But it's still Kroger's. It's just Ralphs. Why they call it Ralphs? Probably the chain they bought, and they bought it and made it Kroger. They never changed the name. The Chevys. What have the Chevys done?
I think it was really getting that win early on with Chase Elliott at Talladega. You had the 1-2-3 punch in that race between him, Bowman, and Priest, and then Hemrick was in there in the top 5 as well. And then ever since then, I think the Chevys just went, hey, we found something. And really since then, you know, because I always wondered, was the Camaro's deal one built for this package or whatnot? But it looks like now they figured it out. Chevy's got it under control. Hendrick's starting to look a lot more competitive. Byron especially. William Byron's been running well. As I mentioned before, Alex Bowman is suddenly one of the hottest drivers right now. Because usually Kurt Busch, up until Talladega, was the one Chevy driver that was standing out. And, of course, as Michael mentioned, the one-year deal, so he's given it all he's got in that car. And he's, again, never saw a top 10 for Kirk, but now all of a sudden the Chevys are really breaking out like we've been used to seeing the past several years, especially with Hendrick and now Ganassi and perhaps even RCR. You mentioned Tyler Reddick. I'm pretty sure he'll go to a third RCR car next year in the 31. That's what it's looking like. Obviously, he looks like he could run for another championship. Impressive run he made at Talladega in the Xfinity Series. But, yeah, I think Chevy's back.
Definitely.
I think they figured it out.
All right, the other monster in the room, what's wrong with Stewart-Haas? I mean, they're running Ford equipment. Keselowski and Penske are winning. Logano's up top all the time. I mean, the Fords are a solid package. They're probably the best package in NASCAR at the moment. But Larson and even Busch, they finished 7th and 8th, but really neither one of them contended for the win. They just were kind of keeping themselves out of trouble and hanging back there. It's kind of been that way all season for those two guys. I don't know that has Larson really contended for a win all year so far?
Well, in these past couple of races at Dover, he got the top 5, then he finished 8th at Kansas. I think Larson is also beginning to perform a little bit better. He had a really struggling start to the season, and now he's starting to get there as well. You mentioned Stewart-Haas. Yeah, they've had good results. Obviously, Suarez has been pretty good in the 41. You know, I had Amarola winning a race already this season. He hasn't done that. I think a win will come for this team because if I remember correctly, in 2017, Joe Gibbs Racing was actually under that same boat. I believe the Toyotas, with the exception of Furniture Row Racing, did not win a whole lot up until the second half of the season when they kind of broke out. When Hamlin won a race, Kyle Busch won races, and even Matt Kenseth at the end of the year. So I'm starting to think this could be a situation where what we saw with Gibbs in 2017, because I remember that was a big talk, like when are these guys going to win? I think we're going to see that. I still think that the guys at Stewart-Haas will get wins in later on in the season.
Yeah, there's no doubt that SHR is going to win. I mean, they're going to win multiple races, and they're going to have minimum of 2, probably 3 drivers in the top 16 by the time it's all said and done. Michael, is a driver, is this becoming kind of a snake pit confidence issue with these drivers, or is their equipment just not dialed in as well? I mean, I don't see any of these drivers having a lack of confidence overall. But is this just like, are they kind of like getting frustrated now and maybe pushing too hard or just feeling like I can't win? What does a driver go through when you're kind of in a slump like this with a team like Stewart-Haas Racing?
I mean, yeah, I can definitely relate to this just because the car team I was with, you know, a couple years ago we were winning almost, you know, every other week. We were always running well, and then we just kind of fall off. And that was a huge confidence buster for me personally and for my team owner, who by the time it was all done, he was saying, you know what, we were terrible. Let's just get out of it. Which, you know, that's what we did. We started running the midget. But I could definitely see how that could definitely be playing in with Stewart-Haas's struggles. But really, I think most of their issues is just pure luck because they've had the performance. Like, you've seen it out of them. They've had top 10 runs. They just haven't been able to necessarily close the deal, whether that's been through accidents such as at Talladega or even, you know, just stray debris on the grill like at Kansas. They just keep getting snake bitten by whatever seems to be thrown at them. And so really I think that's been their main issue. Hasn't really been a performance issue or a confidence issue. If anything, for some of these guys, I think that confidence should be up, especially with drivers like Clint Boyer and Suarez, who have been getting constant top 10s lately. You know, that would be a huge confidence booster for me. So I don't really see that as the issue. It's more just luck, in my view. And that was kind of the deal with Gibbs a couple years ago. But as soon as they get that first win, I just know they're going to start knocking them off. And I honestly can see all 4 of them in the top 16 and winning.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's worried about Stewart-Haas Racing. Just, you know, I agree with you, Michael. When the gates open, the floodgates are going to open too, and they're just going to start dominating. So they're one turn of a screw away from figuring it out. And I think as soon as one of them wins, they're all going to start winning real quick. So I don't think I'd be more concerned about Ganassi Racing than I would Stewart-Haas any day of the week. You know, and because, you know, with Ganassi, you got Roush Racing coming up. They're up and coming now, and they're figuring it out too, and they're running forward. They're going to figure it out and come back, and they're going to be in the mix by the time the season's over, I believe.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so we all agree that Kansas City was fun. We all thought that was the right direction. NASCAR got that one right, 110%.
Yep.
We now feel comfortable that we're going to see that in Chicagoland, Vegas, that package, they dialed it in. All the mile and a halves are going to run now. Kentucky. I'm anxious to see Kentucky. I'm really excited to see. Is that the next mile and a half track they run on is Kentucky?
Charlotte.
Charlotte's kind of really built more like a super speedway, though. I don't know. Would we call it? I mean, it's a mile and a half in length, but it doesn't work like a Kansas City mile and a half, does it?
Yeah, the Kansas has the D-shaped oval,
right.
Kind of like that curved front stretch. You see that as well in Chicago and then Kentucky.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to see some good racing.
Alex, what aero package changes are they going to make for the All-Star race? Let's talk about the All-Star race briefly, but I want to let Michael tell his story about how you get into racing at a young age. So talking about the All-Star race, what are they going to do different now? What are they going to tweak and dial in? You know some of the changes they're looking at making?
Yeah, so the first new technical component, NASCAR.com says, a single-piece carbon fiber splitter/pan expected to offer dramatic improvements in ride height sensitivity for competitors. The splitter, pardon my language, also should provide a more stable aero platform and create a more consistent performance in traffic. The splitter was one of the elements, the single-piece carbon fiber splitter. The other one was the second one is cars being configured with a radiator exit duct through the hood. If I'm correct, it used to be through the engine. This will separate aerodynamic performance and engine temperatures, creating more parity across the field.
Okay. Horsepower. What are they going to do with horsepower?
I think they're keeping it the same as it has been.
550.
Because I haven't read anything involving that, so I'm pretty confident it'll be about the same.
Yeah, I can look that up.
Yeah, because I'm looking at here.
I would guess they're probably that's an endurance race too, with 600 miles. You know, raising the horsepower is going to put more stress on the engine.
Yeah. So this is a R.J. Kraft's article from NASCAR.com that was edited just yesterday. Glimpse into future highlights, 2019 All-Star Race Rules Package. Also, remember fans to get your fan vote in, and perhaps maybe the driver you vote for can get voted into the All-Star race.
Yeah, isn't this the first year that Chase Elliott doesn't need the most popular driver vote to get in? He's already in. He's been in since his wins last season and the win this year at Talladega. So he's good. He's good. This is the first year. This is the first year in his career where he's gone into that thing and not had to sweat out getting the most popular vote, which he does every year. So who big time is not in? Who's going to have to race their way in the pre-race that happens for the All-Star race? Who's not in?
All right. So here's some notable names: Alex Bowman, Chris Buescher, William Byron, Matt DiBenedetto, Kyle Larson. That's probably the biggest name. Paul Menard, Ryan Preece, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Daniel Suarez, Matt Tiff, Bubba Wallace, and, of course, a few others as well. Those are some notables. How many of those transfer? There's 3 stages in the Open. There will be 3 transfer winners, and then the fan vote. Fan vote. And then who do we anticipate gets the fan vote this year since Elliott's already got it nailed down? Let's see. I believe they actually came out recently with an update, like a top 10 of the All-Star Race fan vote. They've never actually shown in the exact top 10 order before, which I was very intrigued by. Now, if I'm correct, let me check here. So, 5 days ago they posted a top 10. I believe number 1, number 1's Matt DiBenedetto, I think. Let's see, 10, Ross Chastain, Paul Menard at 9, Stenhouse 8th, Ryan Preece 7th, Daniel Suarez 6th, Bubba Wallace in 5th, William Byron 4th, Alex Bowman 3rd, 2nd Kyle Larson, number 1, the Reddit superstar Matt DiBenedetto. He is currently the number 1 most voted as of right now.
Yeah, voting
you
for
know,
the underdog.
I'm honestly
That's
surprised
good.
to hear. I'm honestly surprised to hear Bubba wasn't further up there.
Yeah.
He's a pretty popular guy.
He is. I've actually.
But you know, yeah, but you know, lately with all the stuff that's going on with him, I could definitely see him moving up that.
Yeah.
You know, Bubba's another guy that if the one car opens up, I feel badly for. I think that kid's a racer. I think he races hard. He's got moxie. He's got attitude. He's just in a ceremonial car. I mean, Petty does not have the money to compete. And they're parading the 43 around in the Petty colors, and I think the driver's competitive. I don't think the equipment's competitive. You talk about somebody that I would love to see get into the one car, and that would be Bubba Wallace. I think that would be great for NASCAR. It'd be great for NASCAR for diversity. I think it would let Bubba use his talents, and I think he would screw some people up. You talk about short track racing in the one car. You know, Bubba's not afraid to hit anybody or rub fenders with anybody. And I know he wrecks a fair amount, but it's because he's trying. I mean, he's pushing you.
He's pushing that
and
car.
He's got crap equipment, you know.
Yeah.
He overdrives that car, yeah.
I mean, I'm sure – I'm sorry, go ahead. Anyway, I'm sure winning that fan vote is also going to help him just because, you know, you've heard him lately. He's been suffering from depression. He apparently just had a breakup. He's been going through a lot. And so this is going to help him. And also, I just want to throw this out there. You know, I was on Facebook the other day, and they were talking about his struggles. And I'll tell you this, some of the comments I saw under that were just absolutely disgusting. Some of them were telling him to get out of the sport. There's no place for a depressed driver. And I just want to say what people don't understand is depression is very real. I've struggled with it. And I'm just so sick to see people treating other people like that. There's no excuse for it. And they act like that's going to help him. It's just going to make it worse. And I also just want to say, if you're struggling out there, there are people who will help you. Look at there are crisis text lines, suicide hotlines. If you feel like you need somebody to talk to, please contact one of those.
Yes, certainly. Depression is something you don't want to fool around with. And I actually thought about pointing this out because you mentioned the whole social media thing. There was another related post. And by the way, I've heard rumors about potentially RPM shutting down at the end of the year. I'm not going to say I don't know. I just heard a couple rumors about that. But with the social media thing, NASCAR made the announcement that at the end of the second stage, they're going to pause the race, stop the field, stop the race, and do like a salute to the military people, which I thought is very sweet. I like that NASCAR does that. NASCAR's the most patriotic sport out there. What I didn't like was people constantly saying, like, it's going to be another boring, make it longer race, NASCAR's dying. Stop being so negative. You know, dude, don't make comments like that, okay? I enjoy it no matter what, in the end, okay? While you may not agree with some things NASCAR has done, don't complain so much. Just enjoy it. I mean, and when you bring up the thing with Bubba, that's disgusting. People shouldn't be doing that, man. Bubba Wallace, if you hear this, man, all of us here support you, and just like everybody else, and that, you know, we got your back. People love you, you know. People love you.
Yeah, nobody gets it right better than NASCAR in terms of supporting their fan base, taking care of their fan base, saluting this country, you know, what they do with the military and everything like that. And anybody jump on NASCAR. I mean, the other forms of sport, you know, I watch F1 in the morning, Sunday mornings at 5 o'clock when it comes on. And, you know, they don't let fans even near the drivers of the cars. And the drivers are so aloof. The sport is so aloof. But NASCAR makes sure that it makes it a family package and family value. And, yeah, the whole process is fun to watch. So, and they're very supportive of their drivers. Take care. I remember when Jeremy Mayfield was going through everything. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't think anybody supported Jeremy Mayfield more than NASCAR did. Gave the kid every chance in the world to right his ship and helped him try and right his ship. He did right his ship for a while. And NASCAR certainly didn't give up on him, just throw him out of the sport. So, you know, boy to them. That's why you love the sport.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Anything else about the All-Star race? It's just a fun night. They don't care. It's not a points race. They go at it 110%.
Race for $1 million. It'll be fun.
Race for $1 million. There'll be some wrecks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. Kind of sucks I'm not going to be able to watch it because I actually have my first race of the season this week. So.
Oh, you got a DVR, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I do. I DVR the race, and Alex starts tweeting me. Did you see that? Alex, I DVR'd the race. I'm watching something else right now. I'm going to watch it tonight. Shut up, Alex.
I've been more careful recently.
He's been more, yeah. I got to put,
I'm like, did you watch the race? Okay, we'll talk about it later.
Weekend, yeah. I watched the Grand Prix, the Indy Grand Prix. I watched it, and then, the great thing about being in California, all these things come on like at 9 in the morning. I'll watch the Indy 500. It'll come on at 9 in the morning here, which is cool. You just go have your wife make you some pancakes and an omelet. You lay in bed and watch the race.
Oh, yeah. I'm looking forward to the Indy 500. Michael, you mentioned
there's a race that I think is up and coming and going to be a major sporting event again very shortly. I think you're going to start seeing the stands full again. I think the flavor of IndyCar racing in the Indy 500 is coming back, and I think you're really going to see a great race. And I think it's going to be a very fun. I used to go to the Indy 500 every year. I mean, and there was nothing more fun than the Indy 500. I've been going to it since I was about 18 years old. As long as I lived in Indy, we'd always go. Yeah, I mean, we spent our first 15 years in the snake pit and saw some stuff we probably shouldn't have seen, learned some stuff we probably shouldn't have learned, smelled some stuff we probably shouldn't have smelled, and drank some stuff we probably shouldn't have drank. But that's the snake pit, which they finally got rid of.
I've had that experience, but it was at Talladega, so.
I'm sure it's the same thing. That's my next place I'd want to go is Talladega.
I went there down there.
Yeah, I've heard that's just a great part. I'd love to rent an RV, park it in there on the boulevard, and just I bet half those people never even see the race. They watch it in their they sit in their RVs and put it on the satellite and watch it in their RV there. They just go to the party afterwards. And the great thing about that is you see a lot of time Earnhardt and Waltrip and Gordon. Those guys all come down on the boulevard down there, and they go interact with the fans. I mean, they get on the golf cart, and they have a great time, and they show that on some of the pre-race shows and things like that. Those guys going down there, and they just have a great time. You think the F1 drivers would never do that. They would never go and mix with the fans,
Yeah, I had media credentials to Kentucky Speedway in Indianapolis last year. It was cool just talking to all the drivers and some of the team owners and different crew members and just, learning more about what it's like to be in that garage area too. You mentioned Talladega. Yeah. I went there in 2007 when Jeff Gordon passed Dale Earnhardt on the all-time wins list. That was a pretty cool moment.
Yeah, probably got booed pretty big for that.
Yeah, but still, it was a cool moment to witness.
Yeah. Hey, it's like we said before, Alex. Dale Earnhardt always said, I don't care if you're cheering me or booing me. As long as you're making noise, I'm there.
Oh,
pretty much.
So, yeah.
I mean, if I can remember, he got pelted after the race.
No, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure. You don't go that far south and mess with Earnhardt. So, anyway. All right. Any last words on the All-Star race? Let's just go have fun and watch it. It's a crazy night. It's a big show. NASCAR probably does the All-Star thing as good as any sport does. Unlike the NBA All-Star game, which is a joke. NFL All-Star game is a joke. MLB is pretty good. But really, if you look at it, I think NASCAR puts on the best All-Star show of anybody. You throw $1 million out there to those guys, winner take all, and they get after it. They keep it, relatively short. It's like 100 laps? Is it that much? Is it even 100?
There's like 4 different stages.
They invert. They vote to invert or not, and it's crazy, and it's just fun. And you don't care who wins because it doesn't have any meaning to anything other than you just root for your guy. But I'll definitely be rooting for the 9 car and the 43 car. I've become a big Bubba Wallace fan. I really want to see that guy get an opportunity to get in some good equipment and see I know what he'll do, but we got to get him in the right equipment. So anyway. Okay, Michael.
I think a lot of people – sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Finish up.
Yeah, I'm just saying I think a lot of people forget how he did back when he was with KBM. I mean, Mm-hmm. He got about 5 wins, I think.
Yeah,
he was with them.
Yeah, he was a championship competitor. And
he drove for,
he drove for
my dream scenario is Little League decides to put a car in NASCAR under the Hendrick banner, with Hendrick support, and he puts Bubba in that car.
That would be so awesome.
Think about that for NASCAR, how great that would be. Little League just needs to put one car in. Mr. H will support him. He'll give him all the best. He'll give him all the technology that the Hendrick cars get. He puts one car in. You put Bubba in that car, and just think about that combination for the sport, and how that would elevate Bubba. And he'd get top-notch equipment. He'd get great coaching from Little League. Boy, I mean, I got to text Jim France on that one. They got to make that happen.
Yeah, because I know Junior has been asked that a couple of times, and he said that he wasn't really sure, and I'm sure his mind could change down the road.
Yeah, it will. It will.
Yeah, another team that I see coming up that also has some Hendrick assistance, because this team has a technical alliance with JRM and Xfinity Series, is GMS Racing. That team is massively funded with Allegiant Airlines because the CEO of Allegiant Airlines runs that team. They got ISM Connect. That could be another team that could potentially come up. Actually, I have a theory because GMS tried to partner with Furniture Row. That fell through. They tried to buy out BK Racing. That didn't. They didn't get the 23. Front Row did, which is now the 36 of Matt Tiff. I wonder if maybe GMS is waiting to purchase Richard Petty's team or something along the lines of that, and perhaps work with Hendrick.
Yeah, I don't think Petty gets out of the sport. I don't think Petty gets out of the sport till he dies. I think I think they keep a Petty car in there. I think they'll keep a Petty car in there running. They'll keep the 43 running until he becomes totally irrelevant. I mean, not ability to. He's what? Is he in his 80s yet?
Yeah, and Richard Petty will always be an iconic figure in NASCAR, no matter what.
Sure, he is. He's the king. I mean, say what you want to, he's the king. So
he's 81 years old.
Yeah, and still looks like he could drive.
Oh yeah,
to some degree. He drive the pace car. Unlike Juan Montoya, he could avoid hitting the turbine, the gas turbine.
The dryers.
The dryers. Yeah, you can avoid hitting the dryers on a caution.
By the way, you guys want to hear a joke?
What's that?
How many cars does it take to take out a jet dryer?
How many?
Just one.
Just one.
Just one. Just one. Oh, just one. Okay, Michael. There you go. All right, Michael. In 15 minutes.
Brought it up. I had to do it.
How does one do what you're doing? What's your love? What's your commitment? Where are you racing now? Where's your ambition to go to? This is your time to tell us about you, the trials and tribulations you take, what you call success, and where you want to end up down the road. And talk about your sponsors too. Definitely, get some airtime for them. We draw pretty good on this show because of Alex, not me. But tell us about your story.
Okay, so I've always been into NASCAR, like, for as long as I could remember. At the same time, I never really grew up in a rich family like a lot of these guys do, so I didn't really have the advantage many people do. I didn't even start racing until I was about 15. That's when I started running karts. Fortunately, my aunt owns a boat shop, and she was willing to throw some money our way to help us out, and she stayed with me since then, which I'm so grateful for her for that. By the way, if you're in Southern Kentucky and you're looking for a boat, go to Southside Outboard. They will always get you the best deal for anything you need. And so last year, we decided to start running dirt midgets.
Hey, Michael.
With Mike Wallace.
Michael, does she only sell outboards?
I believe so.
I've owned 2 Mastercrafts in my lifetime.
Huh.
I'm more of an inboard guy. I need that 351 Cleveland sitting in there.
Nice.
All right, yeah, well, look her up, and because she has several other.
At 60 years old, I'm done water skiing. Too many slalom courses that I missed.
All right.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's no problem. So last year we started running with Mike Wallace Racing Technology in the Power Ride E2 Midget Series and the Badger Series, which is what I've mainly been running. You know, it's the oldest midget series in the world, so it's really cool to say I'm a competitor in that. So far, all my events have been at Sycamore Speedway. We're just going there, trying to get me to learn. And July 7th is when we finally plan to branch out and go out to Angel Park Speedway for my Power Eye National Midget debut at the Pepsi Nationals. And after that, we're just going to try to pick and choose our races based on what kind of sponsorship we have. And we also just announced that we will be running the BC39 at Indianapolis in September. Mm-hmm. So that's going to end up being my USAC National debut, which I'm really excited for. We had NASCAR Low teams come on to help me with that, so I can't thank them enough for helping me out. And Heather's Antiques has also recently jumped on board. So I have to thank those sponsors. And ultimately, my goal is to get to NASCAR and just do this for a living. If really, NASCAR is where I'd like to go, but if I could just get to the point where I'm able to do this for a living, I would be just fine doing that. And, you know, how I define success is just doing whatever makes you happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's like a lot of people just go for the money and they want to be the greatest out there. That's not really what I want to do. I just want to go out there and do what I love. And I know there's a lot of other people who can say that. Some of them I know are in it to get famous, unfortunately. And it kind of saddens me to see that, because I think when you do that, you kind of lose the passion for it. And really, if you're not going to have fun doing this with what you're passionate about, why are you even doing it?
Yeah, exactly.
Michael, how do you make the transition from open wheel midgets into, I guess, is ARCA the first place you would go to?
Yeah, and I'm actually talking with some teams, so hopefully we can make something happen toward the end of this season. And, you know, what I did was I just went to UNOH, right? And they have the UNOH Race Club there, which puts people on ARCA teams as crewmen. And so they started me off working with Max Force Racing, which, you know, that's Thomas Prater and Tommy Prater. And, you know, when they shut down, I went over to Wayne Peterson Racing, and then they told me that they couldn't afford me anymore. And so I spent some time out of it. And then a member of Eric Cadell's team told me they need somebody for Gateway, so you want to come out and help us out. And so I did, and I've been with them ever since. Best team I've ever worked for. I can't thank those guys enough for having me on the team. And Eric has helped me out so much, not only with the crew side, but also on the driving side. He even asked me if I wanted to drive in a few races, if I could get the funding together, which I'll take him up on that if I can get the funding, because he's looking to run as many races as he can, but he himself only has funding for about 5 or 6. So if I could find some way to put that together, we're definitely going to try and make that happen. And I've also been talking with teams such as Kimmel Racing and Club Racing about driving. And
nice.
So, yeah, really the best thing I could say for anyone trying to get into it is just make as many connections as you can, because in this sport, it's not about what you know, it's about who you know more than anything.
Yeah, that's a couple of questions I had for you is, A, are you racking up wins where you are now? I mean, are you getting wins?
Not yet, just because, you know, like I said, I just kind of started running midgets. Okay. And so I'm still just kind of trying to figure them out. But I've definitely improved a lot from when I first started. I mean, the first race, you know, I was just kind of hanging in the back trying to feel it out. And then for my next race in the heat, I started dead last. And then I was able to move my way up to second. We didn't get any cautions, so that kind of set me back. If we had gotten one, I know I could have gotten that guy. And unfortunately, we had some stuff go on in the race that took us out. But that's given me a lot of confidence going into this weekend, because I just know exactly what we're capable of, and what we learn from that is going to help us out with this race.
And the second part of the question is, and I think I know the answer to this, how much work do you do, and how important is coming to a team with money in your pocket with sponsorship dollars? I mean, does that with a guy with your kind of talent, who's an up-and-comer, you go to ARCA and say, look, I've got X amount of dollars sponsorship in my back pocket. They're going to go with me. Does that make it easier for you to get a ride in ARCA or get a little bit better team? Or does it matter or not? Do they rely more on talent or rely more on pocketbook?
Unfortunately, they do usually rely more on pocketbook, which that's always been my disadvantage. It's like I said, I've never come from rich upbringing like a lot of these kids do, so I've always had to go out and try to find it myself, and that's kind of what I'm doing right now, trying to find sponsorship for these ARCA teams that I'm talking with. And really, whether or not this happens is going to come down to that. It's just the unfortunate reality of it now.
Yeah.
So I think the most important thing I've done is take marketing classes, because that's just helped me so much in getting my name out to these sponsors. And if I hadn't taken these, I really don't think I would have even been at the place I'm at right now. I wish it was more on talent, but the way the sport is right now, until we can figure out a way to bring the cost down, that's just how it's going to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
At your level, are you looking more? You look more, I would guess, for like local sponsors at your level of racing. I mean, you're not looking at Exalta or Ally or Napa. You're probably looking more at Joe Bob's Pizza Place or the Shell Station in the corner. Little guys that want to kick in a little bit and get a decal or a sticker or some spot on the car, and kind of put a package together of multiple sponsors. Is that kind of what you look at?
Yeah, pretty much. And that's kind of been the most difficult part, is some of these races I'm talking about are more national. At the same time, these companies aren't really willing to sponsor someone who's racing further away. So it requires you to do a lot of research about the small companies around the area where you're racing at. Like right now, where we usually compete at is in the Chicagoland area. So I'm generally looking in that area for sponsors. And it can be really difficult just because these smaller companies, they don't have as much to go around. So it's oftentimes a lot harder of a sell to be able to get that sponsorship from them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I know the brand loyalty in NASCAR is very high, and I can't say that I don't fall prey to. Now I go to Napa stores to get parts. I mean, I used to go to Pep Boys or Auto Nation. I didn't care. I went to the closest one. But now I'll actively go seek out a Napa store. Just because the 9-car runs pretty much the Napa banner. I would prefer Hooters Wings over Wingstop or anybody else because it's on the 9-car. I remember back in the day we used nothing but Tide because the 17-car, the Darrell Waltrip car, was ran for Tide. So I fell prey to all that. So brand sponsorship, I think, has a place in racing. It does work. At least it did.
Yeah,
for
and
me.
That's something I can always bring up to these sponsors whenever I'm talking with them, is that brand loyalty is a very real thing in racing, and that's always how I've been. The way I've always seen it is support companies that support racing. Like I have a Planet Fitness membership because they sponsor Joey Logano. You'll almost always find me drinking a Coke whenever I'm drinking a pop, just because of how much they donated to the sport.
I shop at Kroger a lot. Obviously, they sponsor the 37 and the 47.
Yeah, we shop at nothing but
pretty much
Kroger.
all we shop at.
Yeah, we go to Ralph's, which is Kroger, out here. There's 2 by our house. We're at one or the other every night buying. But we definitely support Ralph's because of the sponsorship. Yeah.
Right.
No doubt. Then I used Lowe's when the 48 car was. We always went to Lowe's over Home Depot.
Certainly.
But I remember when Tony was running the Home Depot car, I would go to Home Depot because I was more of a fan of Tony Stewart than I was Jimmy Johnson.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's amazing. It's amazing how subconsciously, when you see the names on these cars, you do gravitate toward that brand because you just enjoy the sport. So there is payoff on that. Alex, what questions do you got? I've kind of asked. Yeah. Well, it is for It becomes subconscious for me, but when I look at it, I look at the reason why I'm going to Lowe's, or I'm going to Home Depot, or I'm going to Ralph's. It's because my affinity for NASCAR racing, and they sponsor the sport, so I want to support them because they're supporting the sport. You know,
exactly.
regardless of what driver is driving, Mobile One. I mean, whenever I get an oil change, I request Mobile One because they're on the Harvick car. You know, they're on the Stewart-Haas car. So I go into Paul Boyd's.
I get baffling because of the boys in Hendrick.
There you go. See, yeah, you do that and go that route. So, Alex, what questions do you have? Yeah.
What question? All right. So, I guess some basic questions like, what are some of your all-time favorite drivers that you grew up watching, or really all-time? Like, what were some of your biggest favorite drivers out there?
Okay, if we're just talking NASCAR, probably my two favorite guys of all time have always been Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Tony Stewart. I've always been a fan of them. And so, of course, I can't really say I was a fan of Dale Earnhardt just because, you know, he died when I was very young. But the legacy he left, I just love it so much. So I guess you could say he's probably my all-time favorite. If you want to branch out to other sports, you know, I've also been a huge fan of Michael Schumacher because my aunt got me into Formula One, and that was who she pulled for, so I just kind of started pulling for him. Honestly now, though, one of the guys who I really look up to just from their legacy is James Hunt, just because of how I just think he's one of the more underrated drivers out there. When you look at his abilities behind the wheel and what he was able to accomplish, you know, it's crazy with how short time he really was in the sport.
Yeah, they had that movie about him and Niki Lauda that came out a few years ago.
Oh yeah, I love that one.
Yeah, I need to see the whole thing, but I've seen clips of it, and I thought it was really well done. And as you've grown up watching NASCAR, what is some of your favorite moments that you've witnessed?
I'm just trying to think here because there's so many of them. One of my favorite moments I can remember was Dale Earnhardt Jr. winning his second Daytona 500.
Mm-hmm.
Just because, you know, this was coming off this kind of slump he was in.
Mm-hmm.
Or he'd only had one win in the past 6 or so years. And to see him finally get another win in the biggest race of them all, I mean, I was a wreck after that.
Yeah, I was.
The fact that just kind of kicked off his whole resurgence that season just made it even more sweet for me.
Yeah, because he swept Pocono, he won Daytona, and he won at Martinsville that year. I remember when he won Daytona, I think I woke my neighbors up. I was like, yes! But, yeah, that's definitely one of my favorite moments. We talked about the All-Star race.
Yeah. And also, if we're talking about some of the races I've been to, you know, I was there when David Gilliland got his only win.
Same.
And, you know, I don't think anybody had heard of him before that. So that was pretty cool to see. You know, and I was also there when Joey Logano got his first win. I'd been a fan of him from the K&N East Series. So seeing him win like that in just his third start was awesome. And now knowing we were there for his very first win in any NASCAR series, it's pretty incredible. And we were also at the truck race last year at Eldora.
Okay.
And just seeing Chase Briscoe and Grant Enfinger battling like that to the line was awesome.
Oh, yeah. I'm thinking about going to that race this year, actually.
Yeah, we're going to try.
Yeah, some of my favorite moments was going to a race live. You mentioned David Gilliland in 2006. I remember I was in the JTM luxury suite at the time, and I remember everyone in the suite's like, who the heck is David Gilliland? It was like, that was a really cool moment because that was a part-time small team he drove for. Nobody heard about him. That was probably one of the biggest upsets that I can remember in recent memory. And, of course, I mentioned I mentioned Jeff Gordon when he won at Talladega in 2007. And then, of course, 2017, I went to Michigan, Kentucky, and Chicagoland. That was pretty much my Dale Jr. retirement tour of races. So got to see him race a few more times, and I saw Truex absolutely destroy the field at Kentucky that year. But, yeah, man, just want to also thank you for coming on and taking the time of doing this.
Yeah, no problem, man.
Steve, is there anything else you want to cover at all?
No, I think we pretty well hit the gamut. You know, we're 73 minutes into this puppy. But, you know, Michael's been a great guest. You know, appreciate him coming on, bringing insight. It's always fun to have a racer on. You kind of
definitely.
We're just fans. We just watch it, and you live it.
Yeah. Oh, well, thanks for having me on.
Any injuries in your career? You got beat up any?
Any injuries? Really, the worst injury I probably sustained during a competitive race was really just some strained neck tissue after this wreck I had over at Eldora Speedway, just because they have a kart track there, if you didn't know that. So we were running there, and my kart felt really tight on exit. At the same time, it felt fast, so I was pushing it, and I ended up pushing it beyond the limit, and I ended up hitting the concrete wall there. It's one of the only kart tracks that has a concrete wall, and the tire snagged into it, into one of the openings, and it just came to a stop and just shot right across back the track. And, I thought I was okay. I was sore, so I kept going, and then later that night I started to feel kind of dizzy, sort of out of it. So we ended up going to the hospital because we thought it was a concussion. Fortunately, it wasn't. It was just, like I said, strained neck tissue, which, that kind of causes concussion-like symptoms. I have suffered a couple of concussions just doing other stuff, but, if we're talking like in competitive racing, I really haven't suffered any major injuries.
Sorry. I'm just laughing because I'm thinking of the time that I was driving. I worked for Pfizer for 25 years as a district manager, so I had a sales team under me. And we sponsored the Viagra car for 5 years. So for 5 years, I had a hot pass to the Indy 500 or pretty much any race. I mean, I watched the Indy 5, the Brickyard 400 out of Mark Martin's pits. And I'll tell you what you don't want to do. You do not want to lean your arm up against a set of tires that they just pull off that car.
They're hot.
They stack them back in the back. They're hot.
Yeah, they are.
Extremely
I've taken
hot.
them off.
Extremely hot. They will singe and burn your skin within a second, and it happened to me. And that's the time I told my wife, you know what, the hot passes get us up into the pagoda. Let's go sit up there in Tony George's suite and watch the race from there. We got out of the pits. You have no business being in there anyway. But, we could because we had the hot passes, and they were team hot passes, so we could be with the team at any point in time we wanted to. What was amazing was we got to the track at about 6:30 in the morning, and the 6 cars in about 1,000 pieces on the garage floor. They torn the whole car apart and were putting it all back together, checking every single part, every single gear, every single nut and bolt. It was interesting. But you talk about the go-kart racing, I had taken my team out, and I decided I was going to have my own car. Well, first off, nobody realized, everybody keeps wanting to say drivers aren't athletes. They're nuts. Manhandling a car around a track like that is brutal. And go-kart racing, I decided I was going to just get in my own cart. They do this in team endurance race where I had 9 reps, so I paired them all up in threesomes, and it'd be like a 2-hour endurance run, and they'd go 5 or 6, 7, 8, 10, 20 laps, and then change drivers. Well, I decided I was the 10th one. I said, I'm just going to get in my own cart and run the whole 2 hours on my own. Okay, about 40 minutes into it, my arms are falling off. My hands are blistered. I got gloves on. My hands are blistered like crazy. And first time I'm 6'8", trying to fit in one of these go-karts. They had what's called a big boys cart. Well, about 45 minutes into it, I got so tired, and I got one of my stupid reps who doesn't know how to drive, tags me, turns my car hard left. I go flying right into a barrier head on at full throttle, and it throws me out of the cart into the wall. I bent the steering wheel and the steering column, and I fall back into the middle of the track as there are cars coming flying at me. How I didn't get killed was absolutely amazing because they didn't have seatbelts on those carts. But
yeah, they still don't.
They don't, and they should have seatbelts on those carts because you can get thrown out real quickly.
Yeah, I haven't necessarily been thrown all the way out. There was one time I ended up sitting on my Nerf bar after a wreck because I kind of went up on my side. Yeah, I didn't go all the way over, but
no, I was all the way out of the cart. I bent the steering column and the steering wheel when I went forward. I walked away from it. I didn't get hurt, but I'm laying in the middle of the track for about 2 seconds before I popped up, and I just see carts coming right at me. And you got these girls who don't know what they're doing, or guys that think that they're all Mario Andretti, and so they're like, oh my God, I'm gonna die in a go-kart racing incident. being hit by one of my female sales reps. It was a funny moment. Anyway, all right. Wrap it up.
All righty. Guys, thank you so much for joining.
One thing I would like to do, Alex, if you want to, I'd like to have Michael back on. And I'd like to have Michael talk about, pushing, the pushing in, the sliding, all the terminology that NASCAR uses. The car is drifting on me, it's pushing in, back end's breaking loose, all the terminology they use and what it all means.
Sure.
I'm plowing.
Absolutely.
I'm plowing because I know all that terminology, and I have a good understanding of it, but I don't think I know what I'm saying. Alex, I don't know how much you know about that, but I think it'd be great to have him back on and just do a session, kind of an educational session on what it all means when they're talking about I'm loose in, I'm tied off the corner, I'm tied into the corner, tied out, what that all means and what the drivers do to adjust that. You think that'd be a good show, Alex?
Yeah, certainly. We'd love to have him on.
Yeah, I think Alex, find a time here in the next couple 3 weeks maybe where you come back on and you just talk about all the terminology so people get an understanding, kind of NASCAR for dummies. I'd love to have you come back on and do that show.
Yeah, we can do like a NASCAR for dummies special episode. Yeah.
Yeah, so you guys just set it up, and I'm free anytime, but the sooner we do that, the better. And like I said, just go over all the terminology used in the NASCAR races or IndyCars. It's all the same. She's pushing, she's pulling on me. I'm tied in, I'm loose off. What that all means. What are they fighting when they say I'm tied in, I'm loose off? What are they fighting and how are they fixing it? And they do a quarter of an adjustment, on the wrench. I think quarter of adjustment, how much can that make a difference on a car? They lost the ability to adjust the track bar in the car. That went back to an external move in the pits. So what that all means. So let's get him back on here in the next week or two and have him just go over all that. I think that'd be a great show in its own right.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're now our special contributor, Michael. And again, tell all your sponsors you're on a major podcast now, so you can get airtime for your sponsorship. Trust me, we're on The Grueling Truth. We get over 1.5 million unique hits a month. That means new listeners to us. And this show does very well for a NASCAR show.
All right.
We'll get a lot of draw on it. So, talk to your sponsor. Say, you're podcasting now, you're on, you can be a regular contributor to us. I think that'd be great, Alex, don't you?
Yeah, a lot of drivers have podcasts and everything, so I think this would be great.
Yeah, be great. Just when we need some explanation, call Michael. He knows everything. Mikey knows everything.
Yeah,
sure.
That could be our segment. That could be our segment. Mikey knows all.
All right, sounds
Very good. You guys set up the time. Let's get him back on. Let's go over all the terminology. So I think that's important.
Sounds good.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. Get us out of here.
All right. Thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you guys so much for the support, and special thanks to Michael Klein for joining us here today. It's great having him on. From him, Steve Risley, and myself, Alex Gray, this is the NASCAR Show on The Grueling Truth, where legends speak. Signing off. We'll see you next time.